My name's Viestur Sosars, and I'm a guy who's about a bit more than 10 years involved in a tech startup business in Latvia, wearing different hats. I've been an entrepreneur. I still am. I'm been a business angel for some companies, meaning investing my own money. I've for a while, a very short while, in my dark days, I've run a VC fund, a really small boutique investment fund. I'm mentoring tech startups around the Baltic Sea in programs like Startup Sona in Finland and Startup Wise Guys in Tallinn, Estonia, and Startup Highway in Lithuania, and a few others. Garage 48, which is a hackathon traveling around the place in Nordic countries, Baltic countries, and Russia. So I'm kind of having multi-faceted experience, and one of the things I've involved with is Tech Hub Riga, and Tech Hub is a co-location basically space, and I'll talk about that at the very end. But what I've been asked today is talking a bit more broadly on what's the concept of the smart money and what's the concept of the money in general, and do startups really need money? So first of all, for me to understand, how many of you are currently would consider themselves being entrepreneurs? Just raise your hand. Okay. Decent. How many are wannabe entrepreneurs? Which means that, yeah, okay, they're even braver in raising hands. So they haven't seen the dark side of it yet. Okay. Good. Very good. So, yeah. Good. So that's the context for you. So those who are considering of being entrepreneurs, how many of you actually are co-founders or founders of companies? A bit less. Okay. There's something between being an entrepreneur and having a company. Okay. So, do startups need money? How many of you think the startups actually do not need money? They need much more other things than the money. You do. Okay. You do. Okay. Fine. I personally think startups do need money all the time. The question is, though, what's the size of what's the amount of the money they need? Because 100 lakhs isn't money, technically, either. And the other thing, as the most important thing is there anything else they need on top of money? And how this relates, well, obviously they do, but how this relates to the money. And how you can kind of link it with that money you're potentially raising. So one thing to think about it is, to think of what kind of a startup are you? Because startups come, being entrepreneur, it's a very broad definition. Startups come in all shapes and sizes. And the general distinction how to think about it is the scalability. Does your business scale? So, which means on one end, is it kind of a business you do it for lifestyle, which is perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And you just that's the hobby you're turning into the startup. One option. The other option is something you build as an obvious need for the market, for the community or some region, but it's not particularly scalable. So it's not the next phase. It's perfectly okay, fine. That's one extreme. The other extreme is the purely scalable startup. All the tech startups with this huge aspiration of becoming the next big thing, and you probably also know the numbers game, how many of them succeed. And, well, okay, the question is, what's the definition of success, obviously. But how many of them succeed? And that's of course one of tens of hundreds. So by thinking of it, you basically, and in between this is the idea. What's this? The Bible startup is. It's some sort of in between. It's something which at the end has the possibility of exit, but basically is not that scalable. So it's basically someone is kind of interested buying it at the end if you're doing well for a few $1 million, but not for tens and hundreds of $1 million. Because of something you've built in, either the talent or the know-how or the sometimes IP. Okay? So yeah, one more thing. What is the difference between the lifestyle business and scalable startup? Lifestyle business is something you would most probably will be having really big difficulties of exit. And normally you're not willing to exit. Okay? You build it as something you will be doing for your lifetime. Whereas the scalable startup, it's something you would be pretty much happy selling in 5-7 years and doing the next scalable startup. Okay? Are you with me on this? So, I mean, are you following? It's not Chinese, okay? It's kinda, no, I mean, if you haven't come across this distinction, it needs some explanation, but I believe you do. Okay. One way of thinking about it when it comes into money is that, well, this is not particularly accurate because I haven't seen, this is from one paper of MIT, but I haven't particularly seen a negative job. What's the negative job? But okay, so don't read those small print. The idea is this: that if you think of a cash flow, then the lifestyle business does like that. Okay, you've got the idea, and you basically, if you do things right, you are breaking even either immediately or very soon. Okay? So this is kind of a service you're offering. So basically once you've got some fixed cost, but once there are, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 customers of you, then you, sorry. Nope. Okay. Shouldn't touch it too much. So, yeah. So you basically, you do like that. So this is, you can scale, you can grow linearly. You can grow from the, there's the word organically, so meaning that you can reinvest your profits and grow steadily and build a huge company. There's nothing wrong with that. IKEA started that way. And Mr. Kamprad is one of the richest person in the world, Europe at least. So, okay. That's the lifestyle business, or the SME, or the small enterprise. The scalable startup, all the tech startups go like that. Well, the successful ones go like that. Unsuccessful go like that. Never go up to breaking. Okay. And again, it's obvious. They have the concept, they have the business model, and they have to build the prototype, whether the hardware, software, whatever platform prototype, and they have to burn money. And they have to burn hell of money. And the trick is they have to burn as the least possible amount of money before they figure out how to make money. That's the trick about it. Okay, I gave you the secret. That's the trick about scalable or tech startups. It's about search. It's about searching for a business model as quickly as possible and burning as little as money as possible. And then, when they think they've found it, then they should be burning as much money as possible in order to outperform the market. Okay? Just generally. And if you have questions, by the way, you can stop me right now and ask those questions, or wait. I hope we'll have time for questions now. Okay, that's another way how to think about it, and which means that implies that here you can actually do with remarkably less of money, external money, than as opposed to here. And the nature of money is completely different here, because you can promise something to those people funding, whereas here you can, of course you can promise something something, I would say, well, maybe not understandable is not the word, but something more tangible here than here. Here it's just a hockey stick. Okay. Here it goes. That's a slide which I've done, so that I like it very much myself. That's how to think about the sources of money in general. And I believe there is a next presentation which will cover this, and I'm just kind of trying to go on a principle. But here you see it, and I like it really. I mean, that's the lifestyle business, which means if you start up, you start with your money, and then rather soon, okay, I can't draw it so precisely, right? Oh, I think so. So you start with your own money, and you kind of quite soon, very, very often, if you have some tangible assets to pledge, you buy machinery, I don't know, coffee machine for the coffee shop, or I don't know, bakery machine, something you can pledge it as a collateral, get some bank loan, move forward. That's where the bakeries are, okay? And here's Google. Here's next Google. So you have to start with your money. And do you know what FFF stands for? Yes. Friends, family, and fools. And we'll come back to that as well. So that you have the founders in FFF, depending if you have some money yourself, or you have kind of rich uncle, then the uncle is rather here than he still might be a fool, but he's qualifying for the seed round. Okay, you start with that. Then you need some external seed round. Again, that's a technical thing. It's not black and white. Then you go the so-called A and B rounds through that. And then either that's IPO, it could be acquired by someone else, etc., etc. That's how you fund it further. Okay, so that's it. And when we refer to the concept of smart money, we talk about something here, okay? That up top. Because here you can do with dumb money quite okay. Meaning that your money is not particularly neither smart nor dumb, and bank is not particularly smart. Okay. There's the definition. This is again really black and white, just to make the point. It's not so straightforward, and there are variations. But as a rule of thumb, there are kind of money which, from entrepreneurs' viewpoint, should be kind of considered adding something more than just money. And there is money which clearly will not add anything on top of just big money. It doesn't mean that this necessarily delivers. It doesn't mean that it will add, but it's at least expected to add something on top of money. So just from black and white perspective, this is kind of smartish money, smart money, and this is kind of dumb money. Okay, FFFs. Unless your friends and family is not experienced in angeling, they would probably not add anything on top. That's perfectly, it's not a swear, this is not bad, I mean, this is not someone who should be kind of, ashamed of, but just on the notion that whether it adds something else. So it's basically money, okay? Banks are basically money, because banks do operate. First of all, banks. This is another thing which is kind of not anymore, but maybe like 5 years ago, is a common mistake in this part of the world, that the entrepreneurs were assuming that banks are the primary source for funding startups, which is utter crap. Of course, they're not. If they will be funding startups, that I won't be depositing anything with them, because startups fail. kind of, meaning that, yes, if you have the collateral, if you have something to pledge, you go and I don't know, do your personal guarantees, which is very typical, which I would suggest never doing. Out of the principle, never give personal guarantees to banks. That doesn't help. If you think for a while, doesn't make anyone's life better, but that's just the way they think, they perceive things. I don't know, something else. You're maybe not the heroes of your generation, but does someone of you has come across the British comedian group Monty Python? Yes, you do. There's a perfect, if in a meaning of life, there is when, this guy who's laid off with his big family, the Catholic, comes back and he says to his wife, okay, since I've laid off and we're Catholics, so we can't wear condoms, and therefore we're like 100 children there. I mean, I have no other choice than selling you for scientific experiment. Never sell your children for scientific experiments because of your business. Yes. I don't know. That's oxymoron. Smart bank loan is oxymoron. I don't know. It's maybe that's maybe geography dependent. Maybe there are countries in the world I haven't heard of. No, I haven't heard of. In which they're smart bank loans. I don't know. Maybe was it article? Quote. It's maybe for getting your attention.
I don't remember it correctly.
No, I'm not saying I know it all, but I can't figure out what the smart bank loan is. Can't figure out, except okay, there are few, okay, if we can talk about it later, there are probably few industries. If you're a startup doing some sort of banking industry service, okay, I'm really serious, I'm trying to get where's the catch on that. If you do this kind of banking industry service, then probably bank by meddling with you and giving you some money can give you some contacts. That's the furthest I can think of the smart bank loan. Okay, fine, yeah, maybe it's general. No, the bank loans at the later stages of the business is perfectly okay, and they are perfectly okay at the beginning as well, provided they're giving that to you, apart from selling your children for scientific experiments. That's the catch there. Okay, so the bank loans is one thing, which just is money, which is great. Again, no offense. Being dump money is still great. It's better than no money, okay? Fine. So, bank loans do not add anything on top of the money. Oh, that's tough in Europe and this part of the world. And okay, I have a few things to say, and I'll say it later when I talk about the incubation as a concept. But generally speaking, that's again. You can make this part smart. You can. But there are so few examples in the world where it has been done. Actually, clearly there's one great example and then semi-good examples, okay? The great example is Israel. How the guys with the government money have built the entire tech startup industry. From scratch, in like 30 years. Okay, not from scratch, there are a few peculiarities with Israel. But basically that has worked. In the other parts of the world that hasn't worked. With regard to the tech, to the scalable startup. The lower you go, okay, you remember a rule, the dumber the money can be, and should be, not to interfere with your thing. So so basically, that as we see it here, you can do a few nice lifestyle business things with public money, but not necessarily scalable startup. Okay, smart money, potentially smart money, is this part, and what makes it smart? Okay, so what do startups need on top of money? Or sometimes in exchange for more money, they may need something which is not necessarily money. And this is experience. Even if you are a serial entrepreneur doing your, I don't know, 5th or 10th startup, you still might not be experienced in an industry, in a geography, sometimes if you move around, or in something else. So, just a moment, okay. So those guys, the business angels, the seed funds, the VC funds, and you can ask me questions if you are interested in definitions and how they differ, and I hope it will be covered in the next presentation somehow. So, they have to have a good ones. Again, not all of them who call themselves a seed fund, but basically they have to have, you should expect experience, because they have seen in previous projects, because from entrepreneurial perspective, you're unique, right? That's your child, the project, and I'm so unique, and no one can beat me on that. But business models are generic. Let's face it. Business models are generic, and strategies are generic, and of course there are tiny little details which distinguish between success and failure. But a experienced investor, equity investor, should be having some insight on how you should not do a few things which you think you know it better. So if you find someone who's experienced, then try listening. And they also, if they are especially institutional, especially funds, they also have developed, they try to accumulate those practices and try to apply them to the best practices, how it did work out the previous time to the next projects. Even more importantly, you should expect them, again, I'm really, really very critical about this part of the world, but you should expect them having contact. Because I would say the contact probably is the single most valuable addition on top of any money, or even instead of money. Because if you have, just think of, you're having a startup, an IT startup, okay? And there is a guy who's putting up 1 mil, and there is another guy who's putting up 0.5 mil for you, investing into you, but drinks beer every Friday with I don't know, Brin and Page of Google. Whom you would be choosing? Okay? Sure. Except you're not a bakery, it doesn't matter, but I'm in scalable startup. So the contacts are the most important thing, and let's face it, we're countryside in the world, in the tech world, which is perfectly okay, but we are, as Latvia, as a region, as Baltic region, as Nordic countries even. Nordic countries are okay, that's our hope and chance, but we're so far away from those really hotspots of the tech industries where things are happening. And once you can buy in through your investor contacts into those, once you can really get access to people in industries, in bigger markets, that's a huge value. So, and that kind of elaborates further that generally you should be talking to people and not hiding away. But I think you have covered this many times. There is hiding away your ideas is the worst thing you can do. You should talk about them openly as much as possible wherever possible. But that's not the part of, I'm happy lecturing on that part of the culture, but that's not for today. Okay. You should expect from them, not necessarily always happening, you should expect from those smart money also kind of floating and droning together. Because it's normally all the smart money, again, one thing I didn't mention, but I think it's obvious, I'm sorry I didn't. All the smart money is equity investment, okay? There's no such thing as smart loan, known to me. So all the money you expect with adding something on top of money is one or other way, sooner or later. It could be a convertible loan, for example, in the beginning, it depends. But basically, sooner or later, we'll end up with co-owning, co-sharing the company. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So again, perfectly okay for a bakery because you don't need any other person being part of it, getting so deeply involved that they're becoming the co-owners normally. Except, I don't know, it's a landlord owning the top-notch spot in a city or a town. It probably will negotiate and having him as a co-owner of the bakery. But other than that, you basically don't need it. Here you would need it because no one, since the startups fail, again, aligning the risk-return profile makes any lending to startup, smart lending to startup, an impossible. Okay, and of course you're quite happy if they put up some money as well. Okay, one word that actually where I'm nearing the end of the presentation. One word on these things. You have heard probably of them a few times. There are three types of them, and you should be careful. And again, it's about definitions a little bit, but definitions matter sometimes to understand things correctly. So business incubator is basically for the lifestyle. Just again, I'm trying to put this in the perspective what I've been talking before. Business incubators are something for rather nicely suited for this is a public initiative. So it's nicely suited for the lifestyle businesses. The concept is that there is some place where the small enterprise can go and have subsidized place to sit, right? Warm and internet access and some, I don't know, free outsourceable services like accounting and things. And basically, and also if the company does develop something, or does develop the marketing project, so does develop the product itself, basically it gets a grant. This operates in Latvia. You probably, I think you should be aware of that. It's in regions. There are incubators, but not in Riga, except in Riga this is this, what's the English name? Creative Industries Incubator in Andrejsala. But apart from that, that's the thing which exists only in region. So again, it's a dump money, but you can do relatively smart things with that dump money. Relatively smart things. Technology incubator. Technology incubator is the concept. This is not here, but the concept is completely different. It's something. You can think of this as a seed fund, which is just has this very, very much of hands-on approach. Not just giving money, but also getting you some sort of basic infrastructure and working with you together. And this is really probably the best attempt of this smartenizing the public funding. Israel is best known for its tech incubators, and that's how they build it. So they started with incubation very, very briefly in Israel, for example, which is really stunningly good. They started back in early 80s of last century with the idea that they will do some incubators. They started doing those incubators to foster the entrepreneurship. They soon realized that there are two types of. They very soon realized this distinction between scalable and lifestyle. And so they're adopted the program, whereas the business incubators, also in the regions primarily, they are related to fostering, to developing the lifestyle entrepreneurship projects and general entrepreneurship projects. And then the scalable and tech startups are part of tech incubation. There have been attempts of repeating that. I would say probably Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark in particular, and Finland are the best examples in Europe for that. They have basically some programs which could be considered as tech incubators. They are non-existent in Latvia yet. Acceleration, this is a hype. Everyone has heard of some sort of accelerator. Sometimes Tech Hub is called accelerator, which we're not. So that's actually the bootcamp idea. And this is primarily again for scalable, at least viable startup thing. That you just get the startups and cohorts in, you drill them for a number of weeks. It's a kind of, think of it as a compressed tech incubator. If the incubation in tech incubator is for 2 years, then the accelerator is for like 3 months. And they get really drill on a business model fine-tuning, pivoting, mentoring, like people like I travel around and talk with those young companies and try to help them. At least the best part what the mentor can do, by the way, for you is not inventing what's your business model. That's your task, right? The mentor can sometimes say what will definitely not work, because we have bought it quite expensively sometimes ourselves. So, okay, that's acceleration. And accelerators basically, they also take, most of accelerators, they take an equity stake in the company. So they kind of fund a little bit of the money against a very little bit of the shares of the company. So that's acceleration. Any question on that? Okay. Oh, here's one summary in Latvia. So there are used to be lots of direct grants. Rubbish. Grants are bad. You know why grants are bad for the startups? Especially for the scalable startups. Because grants is these non-reimbursable subsidies are, by definition, they are not result-oriented, they are process-oriented. So as one great entrepreneur in Finland says, soft money creates soft company. We don't want a soft company. We want a tough company who's outperforming the world in its industry. So grants they're very tempting. Okay, you do some paperwork and you get, like I sometimes say cynically, you get a couple of tens of thousands of German and French taxpayers' money into your balance. Perfect. But that distracts you from those strategies, which are result of real life. You're starting to live a double life, right? The paper life and the real life. Because the papers and the programs are not necessarily adapted for your needs. They're very generalistic. Okay, we've got those business incubators. We've got the banks. I know Hypotheca Banka is supporting you guys, so I will keep my mouth shut on their program. So unfortunately, nothing to add on that. Then you can get someone out of non-bank sector lending you. Probably. Why not? Not particularly smart. Most probably. But you can try, because sometimes you can't get those loans. And then there is in Latvia, I wouldn't say there are business angels in Latvia. In Latvia, they're micro angels. Because that's something that people put up to like $50,000 or euros, whatever, per company. That's not much. So for scalable startups. So it's kind of, I'm one of them occasionally. I'm not that active as I used to be like 3-4 years ago, but basically, there are very small number of people actively investing in some sort of scalable tech startups in Latvia, maybe 10. Well, which means, what does it mean actively? At least somewhat actively. And that's another story. That's why Estonia is doing better. Why? because of exit of the Skype only. It's not about only those 5 guys who made a decent chunk of money. There, surrounding of them, there have been another like 20, 30 guys that made a little bit less of that. So, money very rarely, that may sound esoteric, but money very rarely crosses the interspecies barriers, like I say. People who make their pile in, I don't know, real estate or transit will very unlikely invest into technology. And other way around. Because they don't feel comfortable with that. And being angel is 2 things. On one hand, feeling comfortable with the industry. On the other hand, being able to add something on top of money. Okay? Okay, we've got 1 brave seed fund and 1 brave VC fund actively in Latvia. Not particularly much, but we still have something, right? Both of them are, for this part, Bulk Cap is also private equity fund, which is a different story. But these guys are basically also state co-founded in one or other way. But this is a smarter way of using the state's money, because the state invests into them, co-invests, and then they make the private investment decisions on investing in the company, which is then okay. Okay, what's the strategy for the startup? First, decide what startup you are. Remember that broad distinction. Decide on the business model. That's also important, which means decide on the revenue streams, decide on the invent. If you're probably I haven't said, and I'm always emphasizing, it doesn't mean that the coffee shop or a bakery is not innovative. They can be innovative. You can do a subscription-based coffee shop. You pay for a month and fill up every time you go, pass it to the work, for example. Why not? And so on and so forth. Think of it. So think of business models, and by the definition of business models, revenue streams, monetization models, you can come up with the idea whether you need to burn a big chunk of money or you can go organically, okay? Then look for the resources and gaps to fill, meaning look for what you need on top of money and where to get. And should it be coupled with money, basically? Maybe you can just get which is also sometimes the case, you just get a dump money and buy the content. Perfectly okay. Not necessarily always possible, but you can try. Then look for what's going on in the funding market. Move the market. There's nothing wrong, I think. If you're in a scalable or viable startup, raise money elsewhere. Does not it has issues because the early stage investors always would love to see you within 2 hours car drive, right? And if your investor is from Silicon Valley, you will have to move to Silicon Valley. Face it, but you can keep some part of R&D part of something in here. So don't focus yourself on Latvia. That's 21st century guy. You can't raise money in Latvia, go to Estonia. You can't raise money in Estonia, go to Finland. You can't raise money there, go to Silicon Valley. Why? Okay, you have nothing to lose. Okay, then, and go out and do this. Execute. Because the startups are famous on three things. Startups should be doing only 3 things in their lives. One is building a product and a business model, developing it. Second, raising money if you're not growing organically. Third, what's the third thing? Anyone of you loves South Park? The animation series. You remember the episode on the underpants dwarf? That's one of my favorites, right? That's phase 1, steal undies. Phase 3, profit. Guys, what's phase 2? Everyone? Right. So, what's the third thing the startup should be doing besides raising money? Developing product. Selling. Okay, but that's a different story. You don't, please remember, it's not only about raising money. Okay, I'm already past my deadline, for which I'm sorry. A word on Tech Hub. Tech Hub is not an incubator. We're not giving money. We're not even giving private and very smart money. We may give some smart advice, but you should be looking for money elsewhere. And we can introduce you to Finnish or British or Swedish investors. That's what we can. Actually, that's not that bad. But Tech Hub is a co-location space. So basically a joint office where the startups can come in, rent, not for free, no free lunch, rent a desk and work there. That's basically it. It's 400 square meters in Citadel CL12. It's quite nicely located in the center of Riga. It's funded by memberships and sponsors. No public money, no strings attached. We can be very critical on everything until we're not getting any money there. Okay, Tech Hub, on top of being just an office, Tech Hub is a point for tech startup community. So it was, the last one was two days ago, but if you're interested to see how that works, every second Thursday of every month, 7 p.m., there is a so-called event called Meetup, Tech Hub Riga Meetup, which is open to general public. Everyone can sneak in and listen to keynotes or whatever, and have a free beer. How cool is that? Until the stocks last. Yeah. So basically that's what we do. A beer is very important for the tech startup culture, because in this part of the world people just don't share their ideas without the. Yeah, you know it. But that's very important. Okay. Right. So thank you guys. It was a pleasure.